So Shaykh Safir Rahman, in his Kitab al-Rahiq al-Makhtoom mentions, he says, إِنَّ أُولَٰئِكَ الْكُفَّارِ, that these disbelievers, لَمْ يَكُونُوا سَمِعُوا كَلَامَ اللَّهِ قَبْلَ ذَلِكَ. Before this, they didn't hear the speech of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. A large quantity of them didn't. They didn't want to hear the Qur'an. And because they were Arabs and the language was theirs and the eloquence of the Qur'an was something that they understood and how it was structured, they knew that this was not poetry. These people had poets amongst them. So they knew how poetry was. They knew this wasn't poetry. They also knew it was very eloquent, the way it spoke. لأن أسلوبهم المتواصل كان هو العمل بما تواصى به بعضهم بعضا. Their consistent practice in which they advised one another was what? لا تسمعوا لهذا القرآن. Do not listen to this Qur'an. Abandon it, leave it, turn away from it. That was their policy, he said. But فلما باغتتهم بتلاوة هذه السورة, but when it suddenly came to their ears, they didn't expect it, they didn't want it. It was unexpectedly. The Qur'an hit their ears, penetrated their hearts. يعني سورة النجم. وقرع آذانهم كلام إلهي رائع خلاب لا يحاط بروعته وجلالته البيان. Eloquent in the way it's structured. When that hit their ears and their hearts, تفانوا عما هم فيه وبقي كل واحد مصغيا إليه. Each and every one of them stood to their grounds, listened. They did not move from their positions. And after that, لا يخطر ببالهم شيء سواه. As they were listening to it, and the person who's reciting it is Nabiullah Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam, any reciter that you can possibly think of is nowhere close to the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. So they're hearing it from his mouth as he recites it. It takes them by shock and amazement. Nothing else is on their mind. لا يخطر ببالهم. Nothing comes to their mind other than this recitation. They're not preoccupied with any other matter. حتى إذا تلا خواتم هذه السورة. So he started the surah reciting it until he came to the end where Allah says والمؤتفكة أهوى فغشاها ما غشا. When he recited that فبأي آلاء ربك تتمارى هذا نذير من النذر الأولى أزفة الآزفة. ومعنى أزفة الآزفة يعني death is close to you. The hour is very, very close. You see it to be far, but it's very close. ليس لها من دوني. Besides Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, there is not. ليس لها من دون الله كاشفة. أفمن هذا الحديث تعجبون وتضحكون ولا تبكون وأنتم سامدون. And then recited the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, فاسجدوا لله واعبدون. When the Prophet recited that, they all fell into prostration. Safir Rahman, he says, Shaykh Safir Rahman, he says, ثم سجد, they prostrated. لا يتمالك أحد نفسه حتى خر ساجدا. They fell into prostration. None of them could hold themselves back. All that they found was this command took them by surprise. فاسجدوا لله وعبدوا. As soon as they heard it, they fell into prostration. They couldn't hold themselves back. The command has now taken over. وفي الحقيقة, but the reality is, it was روعة الحق, he says. The truth is the beauty of the truth. The beauty of these words is what took them. And the arrogance, and this is the thing, brothers, even atheists at one point, the fitrah speaks. Even that, the fitrah speaks, and it comes out. The thing that they deny. There's a phrase that they have for them. What is it? Foxhole, something like, what was it called? You can help me here. And in the last moments, the atheist realizes the truth. A lot of them, they come back. Yeah? There's another statement there, they say. And when reality touches them and they are the last moments of death, they come back to reality. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَإِذْ أَخَذَ رَبُّكَ مِنْ بَنِي آدَمَ مِنْ ظُهُورِهِمْ ذُرِّيَّتَهُمْ وَأَشْهَدَهُمْ عَلَى أَنفُسِهِمْ أَلَسْتُ بِرَبِّكُمْ قَالُوا بَلَى شَهِدْنَا أَنْ تَقُولُوا يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ إِنَّا كُنَّا عَنْ. And Allah took a covenant with each and every one of us. It's in our fitrah to know what? فطرة الله التي فطر الناس عليها لا تبديل لخلق الله ذلك الدين القيم ولكن أكثر الناس لا يعلمون. The fitrah, the natural disposition, is fixed inside everybody. ما من مولود إلا وهو يولد على الفطرة فأبواه يهودانه أو ينصرانه أو يمجسانه. Every simple person is what? He has that fitrah. So that fitrah kicks in. There was a discussion between a militant atheist who's currently alive. I ask Allah to guide him to Islam. Richard Dawkins, the author of the Kitab, The God Delusion. There was a discussion he was having with one of the journalists in Oxford. And as he's talking, Richard Dawkins says, yes, I do not deny that at times I am taken by surprise and awe when I look at the sky and the stars and the galaxies, and when I look at the sophistication of science and the way things are. I always do think there is a designer who designed all of this. I know, that's the fitrah, that's nothing else speaking. That which is telling you this, when you look at all this, it's the what? It's nothing other than the fitrah. So even the non-Muslim, sometimes he feels the power of the Qur'an. Recently there was a person who took all the scriptures being recited by the best reciters, put them all together, and the Qur'an was in the list of those scriptures that were recited, the Bible, the Torah, whatever, all of it was recited. And the Qur'an was amongst those which were recited. I only wish that they chose Husari for the reciter of the Qur'an. Ala kulli, they chose an amazing reciter. But the difference each one had was, and the comments you can even see, the non-Muslims are saying, there's a difference to the Qur'an when it's recited. I'm telling you, brothers, if I wrote an Arabic word, sentence, or a paragraph, and I told you to read it, it will never come as beautiful as the Qur'an. The Qur'an's miracle, brothers, is just in it. This Imam of this masjid is something else. Allahumma barik. The Imam that leads us in this masjid always leaves me in amazement when I hear the Qur'an. Like I've never heard the surah in my life when he reads it. Allah preserve him and honor him fi dunya wal akhirah. If anybody just listened to this Shaykh's recitation and the Qur'an that he's reciting, the Qur'an is mu'jiz. It's a miracle in just those words. Brothers, imagine you heard it from the mouth of the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet recited it for you. That's what happened to these people. They heard it from the Prophet ﷺ. So brothers, honestly speaking, I've said this before, it's very important we have a very strong relationship with the Qur'an. If a day comes in your life and you have not recited the Qur'an, you are prohibited. You are missing out. If a day comes out and you haven't read anything from the Qur'an, it's not a pleasant day that went by. Something, even if it's small, from the Qur'an, read it. Have a bond and a relationship with this book. There is nothing greater than the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No human being speech, no lecture, no reminder is as powerful as the Qur'an. And honestly, when you listen to it, just today I was listening to the recitation of Husari, of Surah Al-Qasas, the riwayat Warsh. Husari reciting it. I'm taken back. The miracle in just listening to the Qur'an. Sometimes, honestly, I just sit down and I say, should I just leave everything and just literally spend the rest of my life in just the Qur'an and nothing else? Abandon every other responsibility of teaching and giving classes and just the Qur'an. So brothers, it's a very important thing to do. Wallahi, the Qur'an is the best thing. It's a miracle from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.